We walk around every single day with these absolute supercomputers right in our pockets.
Oh, totally.
And we pay for our morning coffee with just like a casual tap of our wrists. We sign these incredibly complex, legally binding contracts just by staring at our phone screens.
Right, the facial recognition stuff.
Exactly. And because of all this, we just sort of assume we live in this completely paperless, totally frictionless digital reality.
Yeah, it really feels like we've just transcended the physical world entirely.
It really does, right up until the exact moment you actually try to move across a border.
Exactly. That is the precise moment the digital illusion just completely shatters.
It's a rude awakening.
It really is. Because you realize very quickly that your entire modern existence, your wealth, your legal standing, your identity, it's actually tethered to a very specific, very physical piece of geography.
It is genuinely wild to think about, and honestly, that paradox is exactly what we are getting into today.
I'm excited for this one.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. Today, we are decoding a surprisingly critical piece of infrastructure in our so-called digital era.
Physical mail.
Yes, physical mail. We are looking into the whole ecosystem of virtual mailboxes, and we're specifically focusing on the documentation and the operational mechanics of Neighborhood Parcels platform.
Right, that's getmyusmail.com.
Exactly. And our mission for you today is to uncover exactly how a service like this operates behind the scenes. We're pulling from their website documentation and a really insightful YouTube video transcript to figure this out.
Because, despite all of our massive tech leaps, a physical street address remains the absolute ultimate gatekeeper to your financial and legal life.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why does a piece of paper in a metal box still matter so much in the 21st century?
Well, it matters because the fundamental way large institutions establish trust, it just hasn't evolved at the same pace as our consumer tech.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning, we might feel entirely digital, but the average U.S. household still receives over 850 pieces of physical mail every single year.
850. That is wow.
Right. Now, if you're just an average person who's lived in the same suburban house for 20 years, 840 of those pieces are probably just, coupons.
Yeah, credit card offers heading straight into the recycling bin.
Exactly. You don't
Yeah.
even think about it. But consider the reality for the more than 35 million Americans who are currently living, working, or traveling abroad.
Right, the expats and the digital nomads.
Yeah. For them, losing a domestic street address is not just an administrative inconvenience. It is a structural failure that can trigger an absolute cascade of disasters.
A cascade of disasters. When you really map out the domino effect, it's terrifying.
Nightmare.
Like if you pack up and move abroad and you lose your U.S. address, your bank can and very often will actually just freeze your checking and savings accounts.
They absolutely will. They require a domestic address. It is not an optional field on your profile.
Right. It is a strict regulatory mandate, and it doesn't even stop at banking, right?
No, not at all.
Mm.
You can lose access to government benefits, Social Security disbursements.
Medicare communications, Veterans Affairs payments, it's everything.
Exactly. And if you own an LLC or any kind of small business, your legal standing to operate is suddenly in jeopardy the moment that physical address vanishes.
And then there is the ultimate enforcer of the physical address, which is, of course, the Internal Revenue Service.
Oh, the IRS. Yes.
They basically exclusively communicate via traditional paper mail, right?
By and large, yes. They send refund checks, audit notices, ITN renewals, penalty warnings, and they send them exclusively to the U.S. address they have on file for you.
And if they send a notice and you don't respond, they don't just assume, oh, hey, they must have moved to Italy.
No, they definitely do not. They assume you are ignoring them.
Right. And the financial penalty for that assumption is just staggering. Based on the sources, what's the average cost of IRS penalties for just a single missed tax notice?
It's upwards of $28,000.
$28,000 just for missing a letter.
Right, and that's because of the silent mechanics of compounding interest and failure to pay penalties.
It just snowballs.
Exactly. Say you have a relatively minor error on a tax return, like a $500 miscalculation. That triggers a standard mailed notice.
But you never receive it because it went to an old apartment you don't rent anymore.
Right, and the late fees just start attaching themselves to the principal. It builds and builds, completely silently.
That is terrifying.
You could be sitting on a beach in Spain or working from a high-rise in Tokyo, feeling totally secure in your digital life.
Completely oblivious to the fact that a financial time bomb is ticking back home, all because a piece of paper went into the wrong metal box. I was trying to conceptualize why the system is built this way, and honestly, it makes me think of an anchor on a massive ship.
Oh, I like that. How so?
Well, you can have the most advanced navigation software in the world. You can sail thousands of miles across the digital ocean, but the bank and the government still need to know there is a heavy, immovable iron hook dug deep into the seabed of a specific U.S. state.
Right.
No matter how far you sail, they need to know exactly where that anchor is dropped, so they know exactly where to find you if the weather turns bad.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Mhm.
And what's fascinating here is the underlying logic of why that anchor is actually required.
Right, because it's not just to annoy us.
No, not at all. Legacy institutions, whether it's Chase Bank, the federal government, or state corporate registries, they still rely on physical geography as their ultimate anti-fraud mechanism.
Because of KYC laws.
Right, exactly. Strict,
Yep.
know your customer laws.
Yeah.
They don't trust an IP address because, let's be honest, an IP address can be spoofed with a $5 VPN.
Yeah, that's trivial to bypass.
And they don't completely trust the digital signature on its own either. They trust the permanence of a physical door.
Right.
They need the absolute assurance that if money laundering is suspected or if a lawsuit is filed, there is a physical threshold a process server can cross, or a physical mailbox they can legally drop a subpoena into.
So the street address remains the absolute foundation of institutional trust.
Precisely.
But this creates a massive logistical wall. I mean, if the institutions rigidly legally demand a physical space, how do you actually satisfy that requirement when your physical body is located thousands of miles away?
Right. How do you drop an anchor from across the world?
Exactly. And that brings us to the actual operational mechanics of getmyusmail.com. Because I'll be honest, the first thing I assumed when looking at this was, oh, they just rent you a P.O. box.
A lot of people assume that.
But a P.O. box doesn't actually solve the problem, does it?
It doesn't. And that is a really crucial distinction to make. A standard post office box is often instantly flagged and rejected by banking algorithms.
And government compliance software, too.
Exactly. Because a P.O. box does not represent a true physical domicile. It's essentially just an anonymous cubbyhole. Anyone can rent one.
It doesn't satisfy those strict KYC requirements we just talked about.
Right. What getmyusmail.com actually provides is a real, legitimate, commercial street address.
Specifically, based on our sources, their facility is located at 1215 Main Street in Tewksbury, Massachusetts.
Yes. So you, sitting in an internet cafe in Lisbon, suddenly have a highly credible physical footprint in Tewksbury, Massachusetts.
And you get a unique suite number attached to that specific building, right?
Precisely. And the setup process is remarkably fast. It usually takes under 15 minutes.
Wow, really?
Yeah. You choose a service tier, you're assigned your real Massachusetts address, and then you have to complete a very specific, very important document.
Right, USPS Form 1583.
Exactly. Once that regulatory hurdle is cleared, your mail is officially routed to that Tewksbury facility, where it is received securely by vetted staff.
And this is where the translation from the physical world to the digital world actually happens, which I found super interesting.
It's a really slick workflow.
Yeah, like when a letter arrives, the exterior of the envelope or the package is scanned by the staff. Then you, the user, log into a 24/7 online portal from your phone or laptop anywhere in the world.
It just looks like a standard email inbox.
Great. You see the scanned envelope and you basically dictate the workflow. You can click a button to have the staff physically slice the envelope open, scan the internal contents, and upload the PDF.
Or you can tell them to forward the physical item to you globally.
Our sources say usually takes about 5 to 7 days, depending on customs.
Yep. And if it's a check, you can literally have them deposit it for you. Or if it's just junk mail, you just hit trash.
Yeah.
And they physically shred it on site.
It fundamentally transforms a cumbersome physical object into a seamless digital workflow. You are managing federal mail with the exact same frictionless interface you use to manage your Gmail.
It's wild.
But wait a second, let me push back on this a bit. Because when I was first looking at how this operates, my immediate thought was about security and federal law.
Sure, that makes sense.
Isn't it literally a federal crime for someone else to intercept, open, and manage my mail? I mean, we are taught from childhood that tampering with someone else's mail is a felony.
It absolutely is.
So how is this company actually doing this legally? It feels like the kind of operation that should be setting off massive alarm bells at the U.S. Postal Inspection Service.
Your instinct is spot on, and that is exactly why USPS Form 1583 is the absolute linchpin of this entire industry.
Okay, break that down for me.
This service is not a loophole. It is a highly regulated legal lifeline. Form 1583 is a federally mandated document that explicitly deputizes a third party to act on your behalf.
Oh, okay.
It officially authorizes a commercial mail receiving agency, or a CMRA, to legally handle, open, and manage your mail.
Okay, so a CMRA, that's the official federal designation for a facility like the one in Tewksbury.
Yes. And to get this authorization, you can't just click an I agree checkbox on a website terms of service. It is a rigorous process.
They need actual identification, right?
Yeah. It requires 2 valid forms of government-issued ID, like a passport and a driver's license. And the form must be officially notarized.
But if you're already in Europe, how do you get it notarized?
Well, thankfully, technology has evolved so that the notarization can be done remotely via secure video call. That's how expats are able to set this up from abroad.
Oh, that's incredibly convenient.
It is. But the main point is, this is an official, federally recognized, heavily audited process. It is completely compliant with U.S. Postal Service regulations.
So your sensitive financial mail isn't being casually ripped open by some random gig worker in a coffee shop.
No, absolutely not. It's handled by trained, vetted staff operating under strict federal privacy standards.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. It completely shifts the perspective. It takes it from feeling like a sketchy gray market workaround to a formalized institutional service.
That's
And because Form 1583 effectively legalizes this digital to physical bridge, it hasn't just solved the problem for terrified expats trying to avoid $28,000 IRS fines.
No, it's done a lot more than that.
Right. It has accidentally created a massive, highly efficient loophole for global commerce. Here's where it gets really interesting. This infrastructure isn't just a defensive shield, it's an offensive tool for global access.
When you remove the geographical friction of a physical address, the user base diversifies incredibly quickly. You start seeing behaviors that go way beyond just avoiding tax penalties.
The versatility of having a physical anchor in Massachusetts is just staggering. Let's look at how this breaks down artificial borders in retail, for example.
Right? The international shopper use case.
Yeah. There are countless consumers in Europe or Asia who want to buy from US-based brands, but those brands simply refuse to ship internationally, or, their international shipping rates are completely exorbitant.
Right. The sources highlight Lillian Wilson in Munich as a perfect example of this.
Yes. So Lillian is based in Munich, Germany. She leverages this exact Tewksbury address to essentially trick U.S. retailers into thinking she's a domestic customer.
Exactly. She orders clothes, electronics, whatever she wants, and ships to them Massachusetts.
And then Get My US Mail receives all these different packages from different stores, consolidates them into a single, highly efficient shipping box, and forwards that one box to her door in Munich via DHL.
And the math on that is crazy. Even after paying the forwarding fees and the subscription cost, she bypasses the international retail markup and saves roughly 30% compared to buying those same goods locally in Europe.
30%. That is a massive margin.
It is a textbook example of retail arbitrage. She is using the physical address to seamlessly bypass regional price discrimination.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the commercial implications are even more profound when you look at international entrepreneurship.
Oh, definitely the global entrepreneur. This is where the virtual mailbox becomes a true engine of commerce.
Right. So the sources mention Priya S., an e-commerce entrepreneur based in Mumbai, India. She wants to tap into the lucrative American market. She needs a U.S. bank account, a U.S. payment gateway like Stripe, and a U.S. LLC.
But she can't get any of those without a physical American address.
Exactly. So by utilizing the service, she registers her LLC using the Tewksbury address. She opens her U.S. bank accounts. She gets her American business fully active, legally compliant, and generating revenue within a week.
And she never once had to buy a plane ticket, apply for a visa, or physically step foot in the United States.
It's incredible, and we really need to explain why that Massachusetts address is so vital for her LLC.
Right, because every state in the U.S. requires a business to have what is called a registered agent.
Okay, what exactly does that mean?
A registered agent is a legally designated physical person or entity located within the state who is available during standard business hours to receive official legal documents, like a subpoena or a tax notice.
Because you cannot email a subpoena.
Exactly. A sheriff or a process server needs a physical door to knock on. The Tewksbury facility serves this exact role.
Which is brilliant, and the geography of Tewksbury actually matters here, doesn't it?
It matters immensely. Massachusetts is a globally recognized, prestigious hub for biotechnology, higher education, and finance.
So it looks really good on paper.
Yes, Having your corporate registered agent address in Massachusetts carries a specific international weight. It signals a robust, professional corporate presence to your clients and investors in a way that an address in a commercially obscure state might not.
It's funny, though. You'd think this level of geographic maneuvering is only for people out of the country. But a massive portion of the users are actually entirely domestic.
Oh, for sure. The privacy aspect is huge.
Yeah, the sources talk about Emerson Anderson, an independent consultant right there in Boston. He uses the Tewksbury address simply to keep his personal home address off public business filings.
Which is just smart. If you start an LLC out of your living room, you don't necessarily want your residential apartment number easily searchable by every client, vendor, or random person on the internet.
Right. It provides a firewall of professional credibility without compromising your personal privacy.
And the scale of this invisible infrastructure is truly massive. Based on the sources, there are over 5.4 million foreign-owned businesses currently operating in the United States.
5.4 million.
Yeah. And a vast majority of them rely entirely on virtual addresses like this to establish a legitimate U.S. presence without absorbing the massive overhead of renting a physical commercial office.
And the market itself reflects that.
Oh, absolutely. The
Yeah.
virtual mailbox market itself was valued at roughly $1.5 billion in 2024, and it is growing at almost 10% annually.
$1.5 billion industry entirely dedicated to giving digital entities a physical shadow. That is wild.
It really is.
So, what does this all mean for the end user? Having established the immense value of this, the fact that it bypasses retail borders, facilitates global business, and prevents financial ruin, we have to pivot to the practicalities.
Right, the actual costs.
Yeah, because when I first looked at this concept, I immediately thought, well, why wouldn't I just use my parents' address? Or, like, ask my best friend to let me use their apartment for free?
The mom's house strategy.
Exactly. Why pay for a service when you have family?
It is undoubtedly the most common alternative people consider, and honestly, it is arguably the most dangerous.
Why is that?
Because the mom's house strategy is fundamentally flawed on almost every level, both practically and legally.
Let's really break that down because the friction is real. If you use a family member's address, you are entirely relying on continuous favors.
Yeah, a lot of favors.
You're basically asking your mother to check the mail every day, accurately judge what looks like junk and what looks like a federal tax notice, carefully open it, take a legible, non-blurry photo of it with her phone, and text it to you.
It is a highly manual, highly inconsistent process.
And what happens when she goes on a 2-week vacation or gets sick? Your entire legal compliance is basically put on pause.
Exactly. And the legal liability is far worse than the inconvenience, to be honest.
What do you mean?
Well, if you register your LLC to your parents' house, their personal residential address is now a matter of permanent public record. It is searchable by anyone.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you have pierced your own privacy veil and theirs. Furthermore, as we discussed with the banking algorithms earlier, if the bank runs a compliance check, flags the address as a standard residential home, and questions the commercial business activity occurring there.
Your accounts are right back in jeopardy.
Exactly. You are risking their privacy and your accounts to save a very small amount of money.
So the free option isn't actually free at all. It costs you your privacy, your reliability, and potentially thousands of dollars in penalties if a mistake is made or a letter slips behind a desk.
Precise.
Compared to that liability, let's look at how GetMyUSMail.com actually structures their pricing, objectively speaking. Based on the documentation, they break it down into 4 main operational tiers, depending on the volume of mail and the complexity of your needs.
Right. They offer a very transparent tier system. Their entry point is a temporary 30-day option for $35 a month.
Okay, $35 a month. What does that get you?
This gives you the real U.S. address, it accepts packages from all major carriers, and it provides access to their discounted shipping rates.
Which seems structurally perfect if you are just doing like a short-term consulting project abroad, or maybe taking an extended sabbatical and just need a temporary safety net to catch your mail while your house is empty.
Exactly. Moving up, they have an annual tier at $299 per year.
And that's where the advanced features kick in.
Yes. This tier introduces free package consolidation.
Which is the specific mechanism those international retail shoppers use to bundle their purchases and save on shipping, right?
Yep, that's the one, along with digital mail scanning and a cubic foot of physical storage at the facility.
Then there is the $450 a year tier, which I believe is their most popular one. That includes expanded physical storage and a dedicated concierge service for more complex, high-volume mail management.
Right. And finally, for heavy-duty corporate needs, there is an insane tier at $599 a year.
What does that even include?
Well, it includes a dedicated fact line, which some legacy industries still need, unlimited digital scanning, and crucially, it includes the registered agent service we discussed for your LLC or corporation.
Ah, okay. That makes sense for a full business.
The company frames their entry tier, that $35 a month mark, as essentially an insurance policy against missing critical communications.
And when you analytically compare a $35 monthly operational cost against the very real possibility of a $28,000 IRS fine for a missed notice.
The economic logic of why they market it that way becomes very clear. It simply becomes a baseline operational cost of living a secure, borderless life.
As a quick note for you listening, if you are actively calculating these operational costs for your own setup right now, the company does offer a promotional code.
Always good to have a promo code.
Definitely. Using the code TAKE20OFF, that's all one word, applies a 20% discount to any of the annual subscriptions. It's just a helpful piece of data from the sources if you're building out your own borderless infrastructure.
It really is all about securing your physical footprint so that your mind and your career can just wander freely.
And I think that brings us to the core realization of this entire exploration. Looking deeply at getmyusmail.com reveals a truly fascinating, almost paradoxical reality.
How so?
Well, total unrestricted digital freedom still requires a highly specific, heavily regulated physical anchor. You can travel the globe indefinitely. You can run a multinational corporation from a laptop on a beach in Thailand. You can engage in seamless retail arbitrage across oceans.
But absolutely none of it functions without a physical door somewhere in the world.
Exactly. A door that the traditional legacy systems can point to and confidently say, yes, this person officially exists right here.
It perfectly highlights the profound friction between the rapid, borderless pace of our technology and the slow, geographically bound pace of our legal frameworks.
It really does. So for you listening right now, I want you to take a moment today and actually look at your own physical mailbox. Think about the random assortment of paper sitting inside it.
It's probably more important than you realize.
Definitely. How much of that seemingly outdated paper is actually the invisible structural glue holding your entire modern digital life together? And more importantly, what would practically happen to your bank accounts, your taxes, and your business if you suddenly decided to pack everything up and move to Portugal tomorrow morning?
You know, this raises an important question for the future of society.
Uh,
Well, as the global workforce becomes increasingly borderless, and as remote work transitions from a perk to a global standard, will legacy nation-states and traditional financial institutions eventually be forced by sheer momentum to decouple legal identity from physical geography entirely?
That's a huge question.
Right. Or will a virtual mailbox in a place like Tewksbury, Massachusetts, simply become the mandatory, universally required digital passport for the 21st century citizen?
A physical anchor in a cloud-based world. It's an incredible concept to chew on as we navigate this transition. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.